Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, we'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 8 of the anime series Rage of Bahamut, Virgin Soul, and ouch. That's smart. Pretty much everything happened exactly how I speculated and expected it would, with Mugato revealing his powers to all parties involved, and very swiftly thereafter was there Sophiel and her angelic compatriots to swoop him up, as well as Bacchus and his duck sidekick, back into the heavenly body, while all hell was breaking loose in the aftermath of Azazel's having gotten his ass handed to him. And they threw me for a loop a couple of times during that exchange, because there's one point where you see the giant golem's fist trying to raise back up out of the ground after having just crushed his female sidekick. And I thought for a minute there, like, you know, it's struggling to lift itself back up. Is she actually alive under there? Did she survive that? And is she now pushing out from under it again and you know, going to try to save Azazel or something like that? The way they kept drawing in on Azazel's expectant eyes and everything, it threw me for a loop, because of course, no, that isn't the case at all. She has been well and truly crushed. The life has been, you know, ridden from her body, and it's just that last fleeting moment, seeing Azazel pining, looking longingly, please be alive, and the just, you know, impact of that completely falling and washing over him, that he has lost the day, and he lost savagely. Charios was savage in this exchange, and I have to commemorate Kaiser. I have to commend and commemorate him because he comes in and he's getting in between Charios and Azazel, who just are so bloodthirsty against each other. They just want to destroy each other. And here is Charios like, dude, I warned you already. If you get in the way of this, I'm going to treat you like the enemy too. And so Charios is now actively, pointedly going after Azazel and Kaiser. Azazel is going after Kaiser for interfering. It's insanity. It's just utter insanity. And then, of course, Nina finally shows up on the scene, worried about where Mugato went off to and not realizing what happened. She sees that he is being brought back up to the heavenly realm, though it seems by her dialogue at that moment, it doesn't really understand what has happened. And there is Azazel pinned down by one of the soldiers, begging, pleading, dragon out. Please change into your dragon form. We need you. Save demon kind. Be their representative. You're the only one with the force and the power to do so. And again, they threw me for a loop, because they drew out that whole expectancy of, is she going to, is she not? I was very much, you know, thinking along the lines of no, she is not going to be able to. There's nothing to turn her on. And I was going to be gobsmacked if, in fact, the rage quotient was what really got to her and activated it, all of the Incredible Hulk, which I have compared her to in the past. But, of course, they drag it out, they draw it out, and you're thinking, wow, she's going through so many emotions. Is it possible? My breath caught in my throat. Is it possible she's going to drag it out in the here and now? And it's going to be rage-born, and there is the rage of Bahamut, that virgin soul Bahamut, to wreak havoc across, you know, this battlefield. But no, again, it fell short, it fell flat, and I was like, damn, I didn't know what I wanted at that point. If she had actually transformed into her dragon form and wrought havoc, the innocence that might have paid for that viciousness, it's just like, did I want to see that? Not really, but at the same time, I wanted her to help Azazel and Kaiser and herself. You know, I knew things were going to get really bad. Empire Strikes Back level bad, and that's certainly what happened. They hit her in the back of the head with the butt of one of the swords, knock her out. And the next thing you know, of course, while Bacchus and his duck sidekick are being reprimanded in the heavenly realm with the Archangel Gabriel, you know, going up to Mugato and saying, no, your real name is El, and don't you want to save your mother? Don't you want to see her again? And really kind of doing this bribery effect that just was mind-blowing to me. All the while that's going on in the heavenly realm, do we have Charios basically, you know, incriminating both Nina and Kaiser for the purposes of treason. He is going to lock them up in the cell tower of his kingdom, and he's just going to continue that mission. He's perverted. Now that he has seen and witnessed Mugato's penultimate power, he wants to claim that for his own, and he wants to use it, exploit it, for the purposes of wiping out the heavenly realm all told, once and for all. And he's actually getting this really twisted sort of kick out of it, like the idea of there is Jeanne d'Arc, Mugado's mother for all intents and purposes, forever praying in her prison cell, and he's just twistedly thinking along the lines of anything to get her to cease praying. When she has nothing left to pray to, what will be left for her? And that twisted pleasure that he gets out of it, it makes him despicable to me. There is no honor in Charios. There were a couple of times in the episode where, especially when Nina comes onto the scene and you hear Azazel screaming out to her, turn into the red dragon and everything, how much they needed her in that moment. And there is Charios giving her a sidelong look, like he's very curious about this development. Is this going to happen? Similarly so, when the judgment is passed down that it's treason and they're going to be locked up indefinitely, there is Nina just screaming bloody murder. She's calling him in all the ways she can this disaster of a human being, that he's nothing like a king at all, where kings are supposed to be benevolent and take care of their people and seek peace first. Charios is nothing like this. He is despicable. And again, he gets up off his throne and he walks halfway between his throne and where Nina is held in irons, being clasped to the ground by a guard. And he's looking at her. And I had a sneaking suspicion, fleeting though it may have been, that there he is looking down upon her. And is she going to get sight of his eyes and suddenly realize who he is? That this is the Chris she went on that very romantic, robust date with. And would this perchance be where she dragons out? Where she saves the day, in a sense, by just wreaking havoc now inside the kingdom? And none of that happened. None of that follow-through came to fruition the way I began to suspect. And I was actually somewhat surprised that both Kaiser and Nina were brought to their respective cells and locked up indefinitely for the most part. And you have that great dialogue going back and forth between Charios and his, being so sickly twisted about Jeanne d'Arc and giving her, no more reason to pray and everything. And as he's spelling that out, as he's doling out that information, you're cutting back and forth between that and Nina, who is now looking across the hallway at the cell adjacent, and there is Jeanne d'Arc, and she's coming to the realization of who this is. I have no idea if she recognizes her as being Mugado's mother, or if she sees any sort of resemblance, or if there's anything along those lines now spurned in her mind. It could just be that she recognizes Jeanne d'Arc for the beacon of hope that she is, that she still yet stands to be for humanity and the heavenly realm, where Kaiser is trying to be the beacon of hope between humanity and the demon realm. Jeanne d'Arc is the last standing sort of actress amongst these players who is very much hoping for that, for some peaceable future where there doesn't need to be like a World War III scenario. And that to me is utmost compelling. That, again, I was touching upon it in my previous episode discussion video, but to say Nina, Mugado, Bacchus for his part, his duck sidekick Kaiser, they are all caught in the middle of this hellacious circumstance. And the true bloodiest of them, whereas Charios is very bloodthirsty, they have this true blood want for peace and calmness and everyone to get along and work together and not to have this, discrimination and this hatefulness that has caused such a divide between these three realms, the earthly realm, the heavenly realm, and the demon realm. And it's wow. It is dire straits by the end of this episode. Empire Strikes Back level, much as I've talked about, much as I've touted before, and it was very much that. And it could not have been any more well-received or outdone by the final shot of this episode. If you stuck around post-credits, there is Kaiser shoved in his cell, and suddenly there's this reprimanding voice from across the hall. I warned you to keep your bearings about you, to always be aware of your surroundings. I knew that voice as soon as I heard it, but it wasn't until I saw it with my own eyes. Favreau is back. Oh man, awesome sauce. Epic, awesome sauce. I was so thrilled that Favreau is back. And I hope he actually is able to get more involved now. You know, even if he is sort of a walking disaster and he's just going to, you know, play upon the hardships of Kaiser and Rita and all these characters. Somehow, some way, they've got to get out of these cells. And I'm actually surprised that, you know, Favreau has been there. He's just sort of stayed there for however long he's been there. You know, he hasn't apparently, maybe he has, but he's been unsuccessful if he has tried to escape. But, you know, it was spectacular. Were it not for that, I would have been really depressed by the end of this episode because our heroes all lost, and they lost one after the other, and it was a compounded and just pretty pathetic loss at that. And it's just like, wow, how are they going to get out of these circumstances? And as soon as I see Favreau, as soon as I hear that voice and I see his stupid oafish grin, I knew all was right in the world again. And somehow or another, things would be made right. It may be long and drawn out, and there may be battles to come, and it may get very hellacious. But if Favreau is in the story, hopefully he'll remain so. Hopefully this isn't temporary, where he just runs off and he's not part of the tale anymore. But as long as he's part of the story, as long as he shows up, and he has by the end of this episode, I'm happy. I was thrilled. I was stoked. And so, yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see where we go from here. I can't wait to see that refamiliarization, you know, the reunification between Favreau and Kaiser and how madcap that's going to be and such like that. And so I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of this particular episode, episode 8 of Rage of Bahamut, Virgin Soul. If you were shocked and surprised and excited by Favreau's penultimate return as I was, you know, what do you speculate is coming in the next stages of this? Did you really, like I did, were you surprised or expectant that things would go so poorly for our heroes? And I use that term loosely, of course, because there's a lot of gray area where you have a character like Charios who probably at his core is trying to do something honorable, but he's been perverted by power. Absolute power has corrupted him, absolutely, and he's seeking that much more of it with Mugato to go against the heavenly realm and quell them once and for all, and similarly so. Do you have Azazel, who's not been corrupted by power, but he has been corrupted by vengeance? He just has this bloodthirsty need to wipe the world away from Charios, you know, take him out of the world, and even going against humanity because of all of humanity's transgressions against his culture, his demon kind. You know, how do you think it's going to play out? Were you surprised, or did you expect all of these failures to culminate thusly as they did in this episode? And so yeah, you know, I love having that conversation. Otherwise, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.